Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is the HP Podcast. I'm Ben. We're here a little late tonight. A few technical difficulties on the back end. And really, we just knew that some of you, it worked better for your schedule for us to start 15 minutes late. So this is really for you. See, right there. Greek in chat just says, perfect timing. Just took the pants off. That's the kind of energy we're looking for. Dave, do you have pants on?
I do, unfortunately. I didn't realize this was a no pants party. I need at least 3 weeks notice for that sort of party, so I'll know for next time.
Dave.
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yep.
You have a child now. If there's a no pants party, you need to be ready pronto because you might not get the opportunity.
Those are my terms.
Okay. That's fair enough. Brandon, do you have pants on right now?
Yeah, I do.
Are they breakaway pants?
No, they're just gym shorts. No, just run-of-the-mill Walmart brand gym shorts.
I'm wearing just regular old sweatpants, not like the gray sweatpants that homeschoolers wear, but like, sweatpants. But Dave, you're like a jeans at night guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I just learned last week that these are called I'm gonna stick my leg up in the thing. Anyways, joggers. So they're kind of like cargo pants, but then they have the elastics at the bottom of the leg sleeves.
Ben loves those.
What do you call these things?
Pantaloons. Pantaloons, yeah.
Yeah, Ben loves those.
Yeah, I don't know. They felt really weird at first, but now they just feel natural. But I do often wear jeans at night. But when I go to bed, it's basketball shorts or just, athletic shorts with no underwear. So
yeah,
that's important.
So it's all natural here in the Smith household. Well, at least for me. I don't not nobody else, just me. Not that everybody needed to know that or wanted to know that, but I'm giving the people the information they need, or they need it now, but they'll want it later.
Exactly.
Like I'm just setting them up for future success. Yeah, I pretty much at home now that I work from home, I'll wear either sweatpants or shorts pretty much all the time. So if I'm wearing jeans, I'm basically putting on a suit for you. Like if you see me in jeans, like it's the equivalent to someone else renting a tuxedo. I don't understand people who enjoy putting on sweat. I go to the supermarket or the gas station, and I'm like, you people are wearing. You didn't put on like, hey, I put on sweatpants and here's a nice pair of shoes that I like. No, you rolled out of bed and came in here looking like that, and that's why I will not do it. Because even if I like dressed up in my nicest sweatpants, they're still sweatpants in public, and I can't justify it.
Well, it's just like the sweatpants version is just too strong, Ben. I understand the idea behind it. I really do. But there's nothing wrong with it, man.
Well, I'm going to judge other people for wearing like homeschool gray sweatpants out in public.
Sure.
But I will never do it myself. And I'm only judging them mildly. And it's if they look like trash otherwise. If you're wearing nice sweatpants or joggers or something like that, and you look like these are just pants I wear, then I find it acceptable. If you are someone who says, I am choosing to do so little with my life that I could not be bothered to wear anything besides these, that's where I draw the line.
What if it's a comfort play?
It's fine if it's a comfort play. I would do the comfort play, but I refuse, if at all possible, to be seen outside of my home. Unless I'm like walking the dog out back, that's different. That's literally outside my home, but not outside of my property. But otherwise, like I don't like wearing sweatpants in public. I'll wear gym shorts in public because I feel like that's more acceptable. But sweatpants in public to me just have such a connotation of I'm not only lazy, but also dirty that I can't do it personally.
Dude, Greek brings up a good point. The Cookie Monster sweatpants, those went like triple platinum in the trailer park. Those went like triple platinum.
Are those suits? Are those considered suits in trailer parks?
I think so. That's like your best dress. It's just like you break out the China and the Cookie Monster pants.
Because in the trailer park, if your clothes has licensed IP on it, then you've got money, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Top shelf. Yeah. Paid for that.
Now, Brandon, I want to clarify. Like I've been out with you plenty of times, and you've been wearing sweatpants and slides, but they don't look like you wiped your nose on them and wore them for 6 days straight before we left to go to, grab a drink or something. That's the big difference. Brandon's frozen right now. That may become a problem at some point. But Dave, do you understand the distinction I'm making here? Like, there's a difference between like nice designer sweatpants. I'm not even wearing designer sweatpants, according, here to answer Radix question, but um, there's a difference for me between sweatpants that you find in the trailer park and sweatpants you find in nice places.
I'm with you. Like if they're like just the salt and pepper gray whatever sweatpants, and if they have stains on them, and especially like like nacho cheese stains on them, then that's a big difference from like a nice pair of black Under Armour sweatpants. Like at least then you're trying. Maybe you're going to the gym or something like that, or
Mhm.
soccer practice,
Yeah.
or not just you threw these on to go out to get milk and cigarettes, and then you're going right back home to collect income support.
Right.
So yes, you're right. There is a difference, but I'm with you. I don't like leaving the house in sweatpants. I'm generally in joggers or jeans or something a little bit nicer, but sweatpants, basketball shorts, anything like that. Rest in peace, Brandon. He's joined
Yeah.
Phil, I guess.
He might be going the way of Phil. We'll see. Brandon was having some technical difficulties, and we were trying to get it sorted out, but it might be a bigger issue than we can figure out here tonight for the show. So we'll see if he reappears at some point. Dave, I have one more thing to comment on as far as this attire, and I keep using the phrase homeschool sweatpants, and my kids are homeschooled. That's fine. I don't have a problem with homeschool in particular, but I used to work at a college, and we'd get like these essentially busloads of kids that would come in and like to tour the school. And it was a Christian college, so a lot of Christian families are homeschool into Christian school, and that's just how it goes. But there'd be kids like walking across the parking lot, and I would say to my coworkers like, "That kid is homeschooled. That kid's homeschooled. That kid's homeschooled." And almost beyond a shadow of a doubt, I was right. But did you ever notice with homeschoolers? And I don't know how big they are in Canada, how big the movement is. Have you met a homeschooler that doesn't carry a pocket knife?
I don't think I've met a homeschooler. I thought that was the
Okay.
point, is they're always at home.
Well, right. That's why they're wearing sweatpants in public.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
my boss's daughter, he homeschooled her. But that
Mhm.
if you ask me, like that's the only homeschool person I'm aware of. I don't know that they exist because I haven't actually met any. It's sort of like
Yeah.
um, is Iowa a real thing? Like, has anybody actually been there? It's no
Iowa
one
is
can
more of
say.
a real thing than North Dakota because
Right.
I've never met anyone from North Dakota. I've met
Right.
someone from Iowa before.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, homeschooling is like the North Dakota of society, really.
Hmm.
I don't know. Do they all have switchblades where you're from?
Well, I mean, everyone has a switchblade where I'm from, but occasionally you'll meet like a high schooler. A kid comes in from high school, and they just like they have an appointment at the college, and they come to visit the college, but they were at school that morning. They probably don't have a knife with them because they were at school that morning. But homeschoolers never have a reason to not carry a knife. There's no one who tells them they can't. They may need it. Knives are important sometimes. You need a knife to open those 6 packs of your grape soda when you're at home all day. So, it's just a thing.
It's funny too because I'm pretty sure most homeschoolers are being homeschooled because their parents have a fear for their safety. So the fact that they carry switchblades, I guess, kind of plays into that, but it's also ironic at the same time. So yeah.
Do you think that's true? Do you think? Well, that's not the case with us. I mean, it is a factor, of course, but it's not a fear of safety. It's just I don't know, a difference in education philosophy, I suppose. But
Yeah, I'm sure that's a big part of it too.
I understand how in communist Canada, you're not really allowed to think like that. But I don't know when I adopted this philosophy that Canada is communist, but it's been working for me so far.
I mean, it's more communist than where you're from. So.
That's true. That's true.
I guess we're going to talk a little bit about the eclipse, but I'm 20 minutes from Niagara Falls, and Niagara Falls was one of like the best places in North America. It was in the path of totality,
Mhm.
and people are freaking out on the internet because the city of Niagara Falls declared a state of emergency a week in advance
Yeah.
because of all the tourists that were expected to come, and
Right.
now there's this pendulum effect of all these people who think they don't have freedoms freaking out on the government for declaring a state of emergency. And I don't, the big thing is like 1 million people didn't come because it was cloudy and stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah, it's just funny anytime people feel like their freedoms are being
Yeah.
kind of infringed on that they freak out like they don't know what real oppression is.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Declaring a state of emergency so you can get help with traffic is not the same as telling you that you're not allowed to read a newspaper.
Exactly.
At least where I'm from.
Yeah.
Real quick, we are going to talk about the eclipse, but you could support us. The HP podcast. This is a show mostly about gaming, sweatpants, and the eclipse. You can support us over on patreon.com/handsomephantom for as little as $1 a month. We appreciate that very much. You get ad-free early access for the audio versions. And if you're here on YouTube watching live every Tuesday night, about, usually right at 7, but sometimes a few minutes after, we appreciate that as well. You can also join us over on Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. We'd love to hang out with you there. I have a real-time update here from Brandon. It says, quote, "Shit won't even boot now, man." So I might be doing some troubleshooting with Brandon after the show, but it's all right.
So this all, Brandon's computer decided to be all Bethesda this week because, and he's not here to corroborate this, but it's the reason it's happened is because of a lot of Stellar Blade related downloads that have been occurring, since the demo came out. And there's certain mischievous sort of files that you can get because of what Brandon may or may not have been consuming on his computer. So rest in peace, Brandon's computer. But I'm sure it was worth it. His right arm looked pretty jacked.
Yeah,
he was relaxed.
That's a theory I'm not willing to try and dispute because I believe it. It could also be because of the eclipse. Like maybe the eclipse causes computer, some troubles.
Yeah.
Like there is a big conspiracy there with my cousins in town. They came in town to hang out and stayed for the week, but they came in because of the eclipse. And he was like, "I saw this video about some prophecy," and I was just like, "Yeah, I'll click on this." And he's like, some guys like correlated the fact that there were 3 different 6s across these like 12 different texts or something like that. And he's like, "That's the largest reach I've ever seen." But anyway, Dave, you were right in the path of totality in the 100%. I need you to tell me about your experience. Somebody said in chat, I guess there's no news this week. There's not a lot of important news, but also this is the next time this will happen on our continent is in 26 years or 22 years. So I feel like we can talk about this.
Yeah. I got lucky, I guess. And it was wild because it was cloudy all day, like to a point where I kept going outside just to see if I could see the sun. And not only could I not see the sun, I couldn't actually tell, I couldn't point to where in the sky it would be behind the clouds.
Oh.
So this whole thing was supposed to happen around between 2 and 4. And I think at about just after 3 o'clock, suddenly the sky started to part. And we got like an awesome view of the whole thing. So, we saw the moon start to creep in, and then suddenly it went completely nighttime and all the birds stopped chirping. It was really, really, really eerie. And I couldn't stop thinking about when people saw this happen 1,000 years ago, they must have lost their fucking mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, oh my God, what happened? And I'm sure religions and gods were invented all because of this celestial event, which can just be so simply explained now. But yeah, it was really wild. I had my daughter out with us, and we took a picture, and we got little the eclipse glasses from our town hall here. So I'm gonna kind of keep those as a keepsake along with the picture, because being in the path of totality was pretty incredible. And kind of seeing the corona of the sun behind the moon, it was I think the coolest thing for me was just the sudden switch from dark for light to dark and then back to light again. That was pretty wild.
We where we live, first of all, it's cloudy 900 days a year. I know there's only 365 days a year, but it's so cloudy that it might as well be 900. And so we weren't sure that we were going to be able to see anything, but even where we were was 99.1%, according to those charts that are out there. And my wife was like, we should just drive north to where it's going to be a little better. And then we looked at the weather north, Erie and everything north of us, and it was going to be, potentially pretty cloudy. So we drove over to one of the Ohio State campuses, which was about 2.5 hours from us, along with my cousins, my cousin and his wife and their kid. And then it was my mother-in-law's birthday yesterday, and so she went with us as well. And That was awesome that she was that awesome like twice in a lifetime thing happened on her birthday. That was pretty cool. But anyway, so we drove over and we were like sitting at this college campus and we left like super early so that we didn't get caught in traffic. And then we got there and it was like they had all these parking attendants out and like all sorts of activities. And we got there and for the first hour it was like just us in the parking lot. Like there was nobody else there. But it was good because we did beat the rush. And then we just kind of camped out on one of the lawns, brought chairs and everything and hung out all day. They had food trucks. It was cool. But yeah, there was I've experienced like partial eclipses before where you have to have the glasses and like if you didn't have the glasses on, you wouldn't know that there was an eclipse happening because like the sun's just as bright with half of it out as it is with all of it out apparently. And I was kind of poo-pooing the idea of driving that far I'm like, okay, we're going to be able it's 99%. What's the difference? Until I started like looking at some stuff people were saying. They're like, if you've ever experienced a total eclipse, a full eclipse, not like inside the totality, you understand that there's nothing like it. And yeah, just the moment that like the darkness happened was insane. Took my glasses off, of course, looked right at it because I'm a wild man. I think everybody who was there, like thousands of people were just like, took their glasses off. You said that your town hall was giving them out.
Yeah.
We bought ours like a while in advance because we expected them to be depleted. And then like every gas station or store I've been to in the last month has had like thousands for free. We get to the campus, they're just like canning them out like candy. I was kind of ticked. I think we spent like $20 on these 4 pair of cardboard glasses only to get hosed later on. But
I'm glad we got them too, and I wasn't expecting, but they were actually branded with like Town of Grimsby, and it had the date
that's
and
cool.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's going to be a nice keepsake. But
Yeah.
Greek mentioned it in chat, like the drop in temperature. He's not speaking the Queen's English, so I don't know what that means. But
Right.
the sudden drop in temperature was it was crazy. But
Yeah.
you're right.
Like
Once
right
in a
before it
lifetime
was
thing.
about to happen, I put on my hoodie.
Yeah.
Like
But
I was feeling it.
are you not supposed to look at it when I thought when it's completely covered, then you're safe to look at it.
Well, you are, but a lot of people were giving out information like don't even look at it then because they knew. Like there were so many people I saw online yesterday that was like, "Oh, I was only at 93%, but it was awesome." And I think they don't want people who aren't actually safe to take the risk. But the problem is if you are one of the people who are in that zone, if you know, if you've done the research and know that you're in the exact right zone and you don't look at it, it's like, "Oh, you were there, but you missed it still."
Yeah. And
So
even
yeah, it's safe to do if you're actually in the path.
Radek, and I've got a lot of friends in Toronto, and it's same thing. They were like, we didn't see anything. It was so cloudy, but like again, 30 minutes away, and it was just crazy the way that the clouds broke just in time.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
We got lucky. We did.
But man, so I saw somebody say this yesterday, and it really resonated with me. It's like I understand why people literally spend their lives like going to places around the world where another one happens because I'm not a terribly emotional person. Not that I was yesterday either. I'm not saying that, but like I'm not somebody who's like, wow, it was so amazing, it touched me. But like when the actual like, and I've seen pictures. I knew what was going to happen, but when it actually happened, I was like, holy shit! Like that's just. And everybody on campus like instinctively started clapping. It's like, this is crazy. It's just a natural event that happens, but it's like one of the coolest things I've experienced for sure.
Yeah.
Benji says totality is cool, but have you ever seen a 60% eclipse? I'm assuming he was not in the path of totality.
He just wants people to shut up about this friggin' thing.
He's like, I didn't want to travel 9 hours. Greek, it was your birthday too. You and my mother-in-law share a birthday. I don't think it means that you are God now. I'm actually relatively certain that it doesn't. But whatever you got to do to get through the day.
What did you get your mother-in-law for her birthday? I assume you got her the premium edition of Star Wars Outlaws pre-order for her.
No, we actually it took a little bit of organizing, but we made it so that there was a twice in a lifetime eclipse on her birthday. Yeah, we orchestrated that. My wife probably took care of that. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea.
It's no big deal.
Then we went to eat Mexican food after the fact.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Dave, let's talk about some video games, even though this is way more fun. Number one, Apple is allowing emulation. Apple is shaking things up in the App Store by giving the thumbs up to retro game emulators. Now these apps can't hit the store globally, but they've got to play. Now these apps can hit the store globally, but they've got to play by the rules. No pirated stuff allowed. This move opens the door for those nostalgic gamers who have been missing out on classic titles on iOS. Plus, it might help Apple avoid any EU App Store troubles down the road. But that's not all. Apple's also tweaking its stance on super apps like WeChat, saying many games and apps with them can't be native anymore. They've got to run in HTML. 5. Seems like Apple's trying to play nice after getting some heat from the US over antitrust concerns and pressure from the EU or the European Commission. But Spotify's not impressed, still unhappy about Apple's cut on purchases made through outside links. Dave, there's a lot of like political nuance and stuff with this, and there's certainly going to be some stipulations that Apple puts in place. But just from the gamers rising up perspective, this is kind of, it's murky because, yeah, you're still not supposed to be doing piracy, but natively on your iPhone, you can get emulators now. Yeah, Android may have had it for a while. I don't even know. But it's big for Apple for sure.
Big time. I don't know how inclined I would be to want to play a retro game, even if we're talking something simple with like NES, where, you know, the input only requires a couple buttons in 4 directions. I don't know how inclined I would be to play that on a phone, but people seem to be willing to jailbreak their phones in the past just to get this sort of stuff to run on an iPhone. So there appears to be a market out there. I just don't understand how this is even going to work. So clearly what Apple has done has put the onus on the developers of the emulators to say, you can have your applications on our app store, but you are responsible for any of the software that comes with it, i.e. whatever ROMs it runs. So a few weeks ago, we talked about how Nintendo bullied Uzu into kind of dismantling itself. And the thing that came from that was emulators in themselves are not illegal. There's nothing wrong with them. It's the software that they have the ability to run that's the problem. So if Apple is making it clear that your emulators cannot run any illegal ROMs, then are there such things as legal ROMs? I assume there are, but I don't know how this could work. And I just don't have enough knowledge on how this is supposed to work out for these emulators. But again, if people are willing to jailbreak their phones or whatever it may be to actually play these games on mobile, then again, there's clearly a market out there, and Apple is doing this to ensure that more people don't actually migrate to a different mobile platform in order to do these kinds of things. But I don't know, Ben, can you explain to me how exactly this is supposed to work? Like, are there such things as legal ROMs out there that maybe just, you know, the original developer of that ROM hasn't made a claim against them? Or I don't know. How is that supposed to work?
Well, the biggest reason, or the biggest way that some ROMs are legal is because the maker of the ROM, like the person who made the original material, made it available as a ROM, and therefore it's legal. It's kind of like, you know, you hear BitTorrent, you hear torrent, and you think piracy. But a lot of totally legitimate things are downloaded through torrents. Granted, I don't know that that's the majority of things, because certainly there are many who are not doing it legally, or there's plenty of not legal content, but by and large, it's just the method. So I could make a game myself and distribute it on my own website for $10, and people could download it, put it on their iPhone, and it'd be totally legal. And I get 100% of the cut then. The other thing is that there is the legality of being able to dump your own ROMs from carts or from discs and download the keys and everything and use those. That is the legal way to get around it. Now, do I think that the majority or even a partial minority, you know, are doing it that way? Probably not. Most people who are playing ROMs of, let's say, Nintendo Switch games are probably not doing it legally. But there is the fact that some people still do. And of course, that could be because they want to play it on their computer. They want a higher frame rate. They want to unlock certain things that, you know, are blocked behind the Switch software, and enabling the ROM to do that. So there is a legal way to do it, especially if you own the software already. But I don't think by and large that's how people do it. I'm
I've
actually
always
positive.
associated emulation with Nintendo. Like,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of that is just because of the popularity of Nintendo's decades of back catalogs of popular games. But obviously another part of it is just Nintendo's unwillingness to make a lot of their older games available. We've seen how Nintendo feels about emulation. So as you said, I cannot see anything other than Nintendo games dominating these emulators that are now going to be on iPhone natively. So I just don't, the whole wording of it, just make it legal, make sure there's no pirated, it all just sounds like malarkey to me. And I'm curious to see how this is actually going to play out, because I feel like Nintendo is going to be watching this pretty closely.
Yeah, I'm sure Nintendo and plenty of others will be. And I think that I didn't write down the exact language that Apple used, but of course they're going to say, don't do anything illegal, because then if there's a lawsuit, they can be like, well, we told them not to do anything illegal. That was in the terms they signed when they downloaded the app. So I'm sure they're just covering themselves, but nobody with half a brain thinks that there's not going to be piracy because of this.
Yeah, so the wording, I actually have it here. App designers are responsible for all such software offered in their app, including ensuring that such software complies with all applicable laws. Sounds pretty vague to me, but
Yeah.
it's clear that Apple is putting the onus on the actual developers of the emulator. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know that this is likely, but we could see a world where now that it is possible to do that, like if somebody let's just an example that will never happen. If Nintendo decides that they want Pokemon Arceus or Arceus to be on iPhone, but it's too hard to port it, they could just license the ROM and you could put it on your iPhone. That will never happen, but that's an example of, like, could we see other companies do that potentially?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Side note, I think we need some mods in the chat because there's a bit of a side conversation going on about WrestleMania.
And
not be
Hulk
allowed.
Hogan, the actual Hulk Hogan is actually here once again. Welcome in, Hulk. I really loved you in the 80s, but you kind of fell off after that.
Yeah.
Number 2, Embracer Group's recent restructuring efforts we talked about last week. I've got like a wild mustache hair or something. Just driving me crazy, man. It's not good. Embracer Group's recent restructuring efforts have brought changes to Gearbox Publishing, the subsidiary of Gearbox Software. Originally named Perfect World and responsible for titles like Remnant from the Ashes, it was rebranded as Gearbox Publishing when Embracer acquired it in 2021. However, after Gearbox Software was sold to Take-Two Interactive, Gearbox Publishing was left in limbo, resulting in significant layoffs. Of course, Take-Two didn't need another publishing arm, so why would they buy them too? Embracer CEO Lars Wingerfors has announced the conclusion of the restructuring process, revealing that Gearbox Publishing will be rebranded as Arc Games. This move is notable because Arc Games was the PC storefront associated with Perfect World during its tenure as publisher. It's really interesting because I have been on PC for a while and I don't remember that being a storefront at all, but I'm sure it was. Dave, Embracer sell an awful lot of stuff. Of course, they're keeping this publishing arm, but they can't very easily call it Gearbox Publishing when they don't own Gearbox Publishing anymore. Is this significant, or is it just business as usual?
Not really. It is interesting to. So Gearbox Publishing website is still up, and it's kind of outdated, but it's still up. And Arc Games already has a fully branded website. And it's kind of interesting comparing the catalog of games that fell under the Gearbox Publishing umbrella versus what Arc Games has. And there's a very, like, when you look at Arc Games, it's very games as a service, microtransaction laden, a lot of MOBAs, that kind of stuff. Whereas, Gearbox Publishing, they also publish Risk of Rain, Remnant 2, obviously, Homeworld 3. So it's an interesting comparison between the traditional Gearbox that we know and what Embracer is. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is I'm very, very happy to see that we didn't see Gearbox get Embracered and it kind of lose its identity to what Embracer clearly wants them to be, which is a scummy profit first video game maker. So Yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think this is a big deal, but I am happy to see that Gearbox is now fully divested from Embracer, even in identity. Obviously, there were some casualties here from a layoff standpoint, but I mean that's going to happen when businesses are being bought and sold and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just couldn't imagine what Gearbox would have turned into long term with Embracer, and I'm glad we're not going to find out. So yeah,
Yeah,
Art Games. Here we go.
Art Games. It's interesting because Gearbox still owns like a shit ton of stuff, obviously. Or I'm sorry, Embracer still owns it all, and they need a publishing arm. But I didn't really realize that they had a publisher that they then named after an IP they acquired, or I'm sorry, a developer they acquired, and now they're like, well, we can't use that anymore. So it might take a few years before people uh, realize what Art Games is. But why don't they just call it Embracer Publishing or something like that? Like they're probably not going to change their name of Embracer, but I guess maybe for the same reason they want to diversify where people think games are coming from potentially.
Do you think Embracer knows that there is villainy associated with their name, and
Yeah,
maybe that's part of the reason why they don't spread their name a little bit more across the different companies and publishing houses that they open?
I would say so. I would
Yeah.
say it'd be hard for a company that large with that many tendrils to not know. Have a little bit of market research about themselves. It's funny because I don't really. I associate. I think of Gearbox in a negative light, but not in the same way I think of Tencent or NetEase or something like that in a negative light. Because Embracer just seems like a group of people who got too ambitious and bought up too much stuff. They had capital burning a hole in their pockets. They don't seem like they have evil intentions. I think they don't know what they didn't know what they were doing, but I don't feel like they're bad. They're just maybe inept to a little
It's
extent.
interesting that you say you look at Gearbox in a negative light, and I think Gearbox is one of those video game entities that has the privilege of having a figurehead associated with it,
I
and
don't look
whether
at Gearbox in a negative light, just to be clear.
oh, sorry, I thought
If
you
I
said
said that, I
okay.
misspoke, but I don't associate them that way.
But I think of Gearbox and I think of two things. I think of Borderlands and I think of Randy Pitchford. And I
Yes.
think when you have a figurehead associated with your brand, so you've got like Todd with Bethesda and you've got Phil Spencer with Microsoft and things like that. I think you have an advantage because you have a personality, like one person kind of associated with the brand. And I think Gearbox was at risk of losing that under Embracer. And again, I said it last week and I'll say it again this week that I think they're in a really enviable position going forward, being back to not independent, but not scummy under 2K or in Take Two like they were before. So yeah, whereas I think of Embracer, even the EA to a certain point. I love Ubisoft, but I also recognize that they kind of have a bit of a scummy
Yeah.
um uh personality associated with them. So yeah, I think having Phil and I think Randy Pitchford needs to kind of put himself out there a little bit more again and restore some of that brand loyalty that they had in sort of the Borderland 2 days, because that's been missing for sure.
As long as he doesn't put himself out there,
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
as long as as long as he doesn't put himself out there at the medieval madness or not medieval madness, medieval times, no more dropping flash drives, Randy. We've had enough.
We saw him. We stood he was hailing a cab beside us at PAX. He
I've
smelled
seen
really
him.
good.
He did smell good. Yeah, I remember that. I've seen him there a couple. One of the Game Awards, I sat right behind him at a Microsoft show. He was like, I don't know, 10 feet from us. We saw. Yeah, he's like everywhere, but he's very distinct, and he dresses like he wants you to notice him.
Mhm.
But I always get like, not that I want to. I mean, I respect the work in the industry, I guess, but he's not somebody I want to like go and talk to. But even if I wanted to, he seems like the kind of guy that would not appreciate that. Even though he's like, "Hey, look, I'm Randy Pitchford." I
Yeah.
feel like if I walked up to him, he'd be like, "Don't talk to me."
But he was Borderlands, and
Yeah,
after seeing him in during showcases and press conferences, and then seeing him in person, like it just kind of made sense. It was kind of like the Cliffy B days with Epic and Gears of
yeah,
War. Like it just made sense. Like you saw that personality come through.
right,
So yeah, I don't know. I wish more developers kind of had that figurehead standing out. And
yeah.
yeah.
I know you're not on Twitter anymore, but Cliffy B recently was like, "I wish people would quit asking me to bring back games I don't have the rights for. Like, just let it go. It's like people are just bugging him still about Gears of War, and he's
Yeah.
like, I literally couldn't do anything with it if I wanted to,
Yeah.
without being sued, I guess. Ed says, since Brandon has died, RIP, can you confirm he tried to share a cab with Randy Pitchford to get a USB stick? I cannot confirm that, but I also cannot deny it. Number 3. A recent report reveals a troubling trend in Japan's arcade industry. Last fiscal year saw a record high of 18 game centers declaring bankruptcy, marking the second consecutive annual increase. The decline of arcades predates the pandemic, with a 30% decrease in establishments since before 2020. Rising operation costs, including taxes and fees, exacerbate the situation. Consumer preferences shifting towards crane games further challenges traditional arcades, leading to financial struggles for operators. The profitability analysis shows slim margins, with only 6 yen of operating profit per 100 yen of sales on average. This decline reflects a long-standing trend, with the number of arcades dropping significantly over the years. Sega's recent disassociation from game centers in 2022 underscores the changing landscape of Japan's arcade sector, raising concerns about its future viability. Dave, I wanted to talk about this. One, I don't think it's really that big of a shock that arcades, not only in Japan but everywhere, are decreasing. Two, I think if this were the restaurant industry, 6% profit margin is phenomenal. But in the gaming industry, it's obviously not. But what do you think about, first of all, this issue in Japan, and then also your experience with arcades, both as a kid and as an adult?
Yeah, it's tough to speak about what's happening in Japan because it's I think it's a different offering there than it is here. But I'm sure this obviously has a lot to do with mobile gaming, cell phones in general. People just kind of connect differently now than when arcades had their heyday.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in Japan, like pachinko and gambling machines are big. You mentioned crane games. So I don't know. But when I think of arcades, I think of shopping malls, and
Yeah.
I think arcades kind of had the golden age of arcades was probably the same as shopping malls, which is 1980s into the 90s, when like you didn't just go to a shopping mall to shop, you went to a shopping mall to gather and see people, and it was like a social kind of thing. And shopping malls are starting to go the way of the dodo bird. People are shopping online. People are developers are kind of switching to more of those outdoor style malls. So I think a lot of the fate, at least here in North America for arcades, were tied to shopping malls, which is, as you said, it's really not surprising, but it's sad nonetheless. I don't think the next generation is going to care and weep for the death of arcades, but I think our generation will, because I had some pretty awesome times in my local arcade. I had a local arcade which was in a shopping mall.
Yeah.
And I can remember we used to go there a lot at lunchtime, or on the weekends, and the big games I remember playing a lot were Rush 2049. That was a big one. It was right out in front. I knew it was a big seller because they put it in the front. They put the ugly cabinets way in the back, but this one was right up front. Apparently, you could buy like cards that you could actually keep and tap.
Yes,
and,
you
and you
could.
could save your progress and stuff. And
Or if they were connected to the internet, you could also use your phone number for your PIN.
yeah, this
Yeah.
was before that.
Oh,
But,
really? Okay.
we had one friend who had one of these cards because he was really serious about it. But
Yeah.
Time Crisis, everybody played Time Crisis in the arcade. I was always so bad at it. Virtua Tennis was a weird one that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I've never actually gotten into another tennis game, but I remember like actually getting into watching tennis because of Virtua Tennis in the arcades.
Yeah.
And pool. We had a billiard thing, and I played a lot of pool and like foosball too. But yeah, some pretty awesome times in the arcades, and it's sad to see them go. And there's still places you can go now, whether that be I don't know, tourist areas or amusement parks are kind of shoved into the back of movie theaters and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like more people go for the prize machines now, like crane games and stuff like that, where you can actually win something. But I don't know, what are your memories of arcades?
I definitely I feel like I spent a decent amount of time in arcades, and I know as like a really little kid, we had a mall when I lived in Florida that had a decent sized arcade from my memory. And of course, at the time, I was more focused on the prizes behind the counter than the actual games. So, if there was a game that I thought I could do well at that was going to give me a lot of tokens or a lot of tickets, I wanted to play that game. But as I grew a little older, I got way into, arcade games of all kinds, but the ones that I really gravitated towards were the multiplayer ones, and most of those over the years have been shooting ones. You mentioned Time Crisis. My dad and I played at one point through every Time Crisis game together, like at the arcades, and I love Time Crisis. I also don't think I was very good, but that was one. Area 51. That's still a popular one that you see around. I think I played it with Brandon or Phil recently. The last time I went to an arcade with you guys, probably. And we or maybe I don't know if you were there or not, but I think it was in Erie maybe. And played through all of that and it was great. I also love pinball. Pinball in our lifetimes until recent years, I feel like has never been as popular in arcades as it used to be, but the pinball machines, if there was one, I wanted to play it. And now, like, I'm fortunate that about an hour north of me, as well as an hour south of me, there are two giant arcades that have a lot of old arcade games and a lot of pinball machines. And one is actually I think it's the Pennsylvania Pinball or Museum or something like that. It's just called Pinball PA, and it's great. The other one is a newer place that's probably only a couple years old, maybe not even a couple years old, that just has a lot of everything. And there's pinball machines all the way back to like large quantities of them from the 40s, I want to say. And there's stuff earlier than that, earlier renditions. But I've always loved arcades. When I take my kids to an arcade, they are probably more. They like playing games, but they're also very focused on the tickets. Now, my oldest, who's 10, has started to figure out like, wait, I know that thing behind the counter cost $2.50, but they want 20,000 tickets for it or whatever. And he'll actually do the math and be like, I could just buy that on Amazon and just whatever. And I'm like, well, yeah.
It sounds
That's
like
the
your
whole
child
point.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Too much so, honestly.
Yeah.
There was something he did yesterday, and my wife was like, why would he do that? And I was like, because he is my child. And that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because Ed, and you alluded to something, and Ed's kind of mentioned it in the chat there, that there is preservation here. So there
Yeah.
are like the arcade or pinball styled museums that we're seeing pop up. So those are always going to be around. And then the barcades. This is an interesting one. So these are arcades traveling or aging with their audience. So, having the kid geared arcade isn't a thing anymore. But if you put it in a bar and offer alcohol,
Yeah.
that's a perfect way to kind of keep it going.
Right.
But I think it kind of demonstrates the fact that the next generation really isn't interested in gaming in this way. And I think that ultimately goes back to why this is dying in Japan is the next generation wants mobile gaming and doesn't see the need to kind of socialize the same way that we did over video games in an arcade. And yeah, remember how you would slap a quarter on to claim the next play? And that was your way of saying,
I do remember that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was aware of that culture, but I never really had to participate in it too much because of probably the era and the place I was in. But
Yeah.
if you guys are interested in old arcade stuff and specifically pinball, and you want to hear a different perspective other than the North American perspective, there's an episode of a podcast called A Life Well Wasted. It's a show by Robert Ashley. This episode is episode 2 of the show. It came out in March of 2009. I just looked it up. I didn't remember that. It's called Gotta Catch 'Em All, and he goes into like the Russian scene of arcade games and pinball machines, and how a lot of them were actually just bootleg, and like it's really interesting. It's really fascinating, and maybe if you're not a vintage cabinet lover, you won't care, but I think it's cool. There's got to be somebody out there who listens to the show who's into that stuff. So, Dave and Buster's will save Japan, according to Benji. So that's a perspective I hadn't thought of yet, Dave. It is interesting because there's a lot more there's a lot more vending machine culture in Japan. Gachapon is huge. And in the places in the US where they have gachapon, essentially just like the machines where you put in quarters and then you get out like some little toy that's random. And in the US, I don't know I'm sure they're cheap in Japan, but in the US it's like $10 for one of these little plastic things. But it's anime, so it'll sell.
Yeah, big time.
Number 4, Roblox, the popular gaming platform, recently provided insights into its operational dynamics and the demographics of its creator community in response to some queries from Eurogamer. Now, to clarify, Eurogamer was essentially stating that the way that Roblox does its maker market, so that people who can make things in Roblox and get paid, that they were essentially exploiting minors. And Roblox clarified that while it doesn't directly hire minors, it boasts a diverse community ranging from hobbyists to full-time studios. Roblox emphasized its commitment to education, with educators leveraging the platform for immersive learning experiences. Regarding monetization, Roblox highlighted its unique value proposition for developers, offering low upfront cost and covering expenses like app store fees and infrastructure maintenance. The Developer Exchange DevX program, facilitating earnings for creators, saw substantial growth with over $741 million distributed in 2023. Notably, the majority of monetizing developers are 18 or older, with top earners averaging around 25 years old. This underscores the platform's appeal across different age groups and its role in fostering entrepreneurial opportunities for young creators, according to Roblox. Now, Dave, I was interested in this story first because the headline that I got the information for this from was something like Roblox says their creators are not being exploited but given opportunity or something like that. So I just wanted to talk for a minute between Roblox and Epic's, basically you can build something and then make money from people being in it. And we're talking, 741 million from Roblox. I think it was about $1 billion from Epic store last year, so just a little bit more, really. I feel like there might be a. Do you think this will take away from people wanting to get into traditional development and instead, hey, let's just make a level in Fortnite and see if people will play it?
It's an interesting question. I think this goes back to the proliferation of crowdsourcing. And I think the question you asked is similar to the people who 10 years ago who wanted to get into video production as their passion, and now everybody's on YouTube and is a creator. It's kind of a similar parallel where it's like game development doesn't really have the same sheen as it used to because now everybody's doing it with Fortnite tools and Roblox tools. And I think this just is the next step in crowdsourcing. We have crowdsourced video content with YouTube, and we have crowdsourced podcasts and stuff with Spotify, and crowdsourced ad space on Twitch. Like all Twitch is ad space.
Yeah.
It's Amazon having you spend your time to sell ad space to other people. So it's I mean, this is probably in lockstep with that, and it's just kind of the way the world is going. I don't really have a good feeling about Roblox, and it's part of the reason why I'm not modern gaming as much anymore, is just because I feel like Roblox is grooming kids to purchase microtransactions.
Yep.
So that by the time they have their own disposable income, they're going to be so used to spending money in game that the revenue generation in this industry is just going to explode. So yeah, I don't really have a good outlook on what Roblox is and what it does. So but there are good things that come of it. Lethal Company, I think, that was somebody who got their gaming experience, their game dev experience from Roblox, and then took what they learned and went out and made their own game, which is a smash hit. So,
yeah.
I mean, there are going to be positives from this, but I just hope it doesn't, as you say, take the creative wind out of the sails of people who actually do want to get experience in real tools like Unity and Unreal and Game Maker as the start. So, yeah, but people will do what's easiest, so we'll see what happens.
And I'm not even sure that it's. I think you're right about the grooming of children to as you put it, to make them want to get more into microtransactions. And I see it a little bit with my own kids where, they're still very interested in Mario and Pokemon and all the, the Nintendo traditional games. And anytime I'm playing something on the PlayStation, they want to hang out and watch, and they'll play stuff occasionally. And Sackboy was big with them and everything. But when you get into something like Fortnite, they're not just wanting to play Fortnite, they're wanting to play these creator worlds. And they're interested in the battle pass because they have enough stars that they could redeem everything, but they don't have the battle pass. And like there's definitely, I think if Ben Smith were not their dad, then maybe they would be way more into the microtransaction stuff. And it's kind of worrying for the future. And I understand why developers are moving towards that, even though I hate it. Where the best content a lot of times it feels like is locked behind paying a little extra money. And again, I have such a conflict because Fortnite, Roblox, whatever, they're free games. So if they want to charge for their stuff, I'm like, yeah, have at it. But I think it just bleeds into everything else, unfortunately, and who knows how that's going to go. But I do find it really interesting that they're saying their average, I think they said average creator is like 25, top earners averaging around 25 years old. And I'm assuming that a lot of those are influencers or streamers or YouTubers or whatever. But man, if people are, some of these people are making big money from just making worlds inside of an engine that already exists, inside of a game that already has a huge platform. And it does worry me a little bit for if they decide to venture out into game development, that it's disappointing because you got to build your own audience and you got to work with your own tools. And yeah, you still have, the engines, but it'll be an interesting time. But as long as Snoop Dogg and his son are working on building games inside of Fortnite, I think we'll be okay, Dave. I think there's still hope for us.
There is hope. There is another.
There isn't. You were the chosen one. Dave, it's time to talk about what we've been playing. You got some old goodies here.
I do. Yeah. First off, Brandon, Unforeskin circumstances, he was not able to continue on for the show, but he sent me what he's been playing. I said unforeseen circumstances.
I swear you said unforeskin circumstances.
Okay, well, everything's recorded, Ben. Okay. So he sent me his list of what he's been playing, and you won't believe this, but Brandon has put in 74 hours into Skull and Bones.
Wow.
All week. Yeah, he's loving it.
That's crazy.
He loved it so much that he purchased it at full price. Like he bought it at a discount because everybody's been, in our Discord showing the discounts of Skull and Bones. And then he gave an extra $20 to Yves Guillemot to play the game. So he's loving it. He's in the end game. He's into the PvP. He thinks everybody should try Skull and Bones for themselves. It's that good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This, Dave, I've never known you to be a liar, so I'm just going to believe you. But it sounds unlike Brandon.
Well, hey, he'll be here next week, so you can.
All right, we'll ask him.
That's just what he's.
By that time, he might have 150 hours. We never know. Brandon does get locked in on one game, so
exactly.
Man, he must have had to take off work this week or something to get there.
Yeah, so for me, I finished up Gears of War 1 and I went straight into Gears of War 2.
Nice. On the 360.
On the 360. Late 2000s, early 2010s. I'm thinking more of the single player games or the single player campaigns within games. Was a time where you lived and died on your set pieces, your big Michael Bay style set piece moments. I'm thinking about, the train scene that opened Uncharted 2, the nuke in Modern Warfare 2. There's a number of others, but every one of these campaigns had these big, awesome set pieces. And that's just what I think of when I think of this era in gaming. I'm really glad that I'm playing these games in order. The Gears games in order, because if you were going to play them chronologically, for the timeline, you'd play them all out of order. I loved Gears of War 1, but my God, Gears of War 2, without actually changing anything, it's on the same graphics engine, it's on the same hardware. I think it came out within 2 years of the first one, so they probably really didn't have a whole lot of time to innovate, but they just turned everything up to 11 in Gears of War 2. The pacing is so much better. Again, same graphics engine, but they just added so much color into everything that it feels like a different game. Gunplay is all the same. They just added in a few more missions, a few more different kinds of guns that you could use. But yeah, Gears of War 2 it's awesome. It's so much fun. It's easier, I'll say that. So Gears does a thing where it kind of makes you feel like shit in the difficulty select menu. So that you only have 2 difficulty settings in your first playthrough. You have casual and I think it's called extreme or nightmare or something like that. Casual, it gives you a little descriptor. It says you have never played a shooter before.
Yeah.
And then the next difficulty is you know how to do a headshot or something like that. And I'm like, I started Gears of War 1 in that second difficulty and I turned it back pretty quick because I'm like, I'm not having a good time. I could struggle through this, but yeah. So I'm playing the second one on casual and it's noticeably more easier. But yeah, such a good campaign and so many like big bombastic set pieces, and you're on these big massive like 4-wheelers at one point, just like cutting through the forest, and then you're fighting through like inside a worm and shit, and it's so well paced and it's so much fun. So
you had never played Gears 2 before, correct?
I have played, I don't know if I finished it, but I definitely have played parts of Gears of War 2, and as I'm playing through it, I'm remembering some of it. I think Gears of War 3 is the one that I hadn't touched. So that I'll probably go to next. And yeah, I also wanted to mention something kind of interesting about Gears of War. My nephews were over, and they saw
not your wife's nephews, your nephews.
My wife's nephews. But after our discussion a few years ago, I'm calling them my nephews now, just to avoid confusion. So they were over and they saw that I had a 360, and I'm like, "Do you guys want to play? I've got these games called Gears of War," and they're 13, so I don't think they would have. They didn't know what Gears of War was. They were far too young when it launched, and they loved it. They had a great time with it. Now again, because they're 13 and they're boys and they're gamers, the only video game they know and play regularly is Fortnite.
Yeah.
And what I forgot to mention to them was the game you're playing, Gears of War, if it wasn't for this, you probably wouldn't have Fortnite. And I started to think about the DNA that is in Fortnite that came from Gears of War. Third person shooter, lots of dodging, quick over the shoulder. It doesn't have like the weight that you have from Gears of War, but there's a lot of other similarities that you can, like, if you went from one to the other, you be like, okay, I see how this came from that. So I think if they come over again and they play it, I'm going to kind of remind them of that because I think it would be interesting to them. But
nice.
Yeah.
Do you think it will be interesting to them, or do you think they won't care at all?
It will be interesting to me, and I will sound interesting saying it, but they will not hear what I'm saying because, yeah.
Real quick, just on that same frame of mind, during our last conversation, Radic in chat asked the question, "Are you worried you might sound like an old head regarding Roblox?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also no, because I'm into Fortnite, so I'm basically a kid.
Yeah.
Continue, Dave.
So I also jumped back into Wind Waker. I started this I don't know, month and a half ago or so. Got through the first dungeon, and then I just went back and played a little bit more, and I got through the second dungeon. It's funny that in Ocarina of Time you have the forest, or you have like the Deku tree, and then you go to where the Gorons are, and then King Jabu Jabu's belly, which is basically it's forest, fire, water. And I forgot about this, but in Wind Waker, it kind of follows a similar thing. So you have Dragon Roost Cavern, which is the first one. It's a fire temple. And then you have the Deku Tree, which is the forest temple. And then the third place you go before Ganon loses his shit is it's another water themed temple. And as I'm playing the games, I'm like, I like it being familiar, but I also want something different. But I remember when I was playing through Tears of the Kingdom and even Breath of the Wild, I was like, I missed the familiarity of the formulaic like elemental temples that they had in Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker and some of the other ones. So it's yeah, it's fun. And again, Wind Waker is another game where I played through some of it when I was younger, so I'm kind of at the point now where I'm seeing new stuff. This is stuff I hadn't experienced before. So
nice.
Again, fun playing this game. So
cool.
Yeah.
I've tried to play Wind Waker a couple times, and I played it the full way through when it first came out, but I've tried to play it again because everybody's like, oh, because I didn't love it. It wasn't the worst game, but I didn't love it. And everybody's like, you should go back and play it again. You should. And I'm like, okay, here, I'll try it. I don't like it. And then they're like, well, try it this way. And I'm like, okay. A couple years later, I try it again. Still don't like it. So it's I'm not gonna say it's my least favorite Zelda game because I can't remember for sure if it is right off the top of my head here. I made a video a little while back and I'm pretty sure it was in the lower tier of Zelda games, but everybody just talks so positively about it, and I love Zelda, and I just can't get into it. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel that the sailing is definitely different in it.
Mhm.
Even like that era of open world Zelda games, they didn't have as much to do in the open world, but I do find the sailing largely boring. Everything else about it, including the art style though, is really really cool. So
Yeah,
yeah. And it's aged well too, like really well. I know it's
I've
got a
been told
remake,
that.
but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I've still been playing Rebirth. I've talked about it a lot on the show. I have nothing new to report from last week. Basically, I'm still just trucking through it. I'm doing every side mission, every other thing. I think I'm probably about 70 hours into it at this point, and I'm still enjoying it. I'm still loving it. It's just my time this week has been less flexible because I feel like this with this game, and I get a game like this occasionally. I don't want to play it unless I have like 2 to 3 hours to play it. There's plenty of other games where I'm like, I'll hop in for 20 minutes, I'll hop in for an hour, no problem, whatever. But this game specifically, I'm like, I want the time to dedicate to it. So I'm about 70 hours in, still enjoying it. I anticipate I'll wrap it up within the next couple weeks, but not sure. I haven't looked up, chapter list or anything, but I know I did see someone on Twitter or somewhere say like the last 2 chapters are longer than the other chapters. I don't know if that's true or not, but the way I'm playing, but all I know is that means I've still got plenty of enjoyment to have. And then I checked out Subnautica.
Sorry, are you still planning on platinuming it?
I was never really planning on platinum. It was just like if I get to the end and there's only a couple things, but I've been told it's a really tough platinum. Not just like, oh, there's a lot of stuff you have to do. Like there's some boss fights you have to do in the simulator that are really tough. And I'm like, I don't know. Like by the time I'm done with it, maybe I won't try it right away, but we'll see. Because I will platinum a game if I get to the end of it and there's only few trophies left and I love the game. But if I have to play it enough to not enjoy it and just feel like I'm working, then no, I don't care that much about it. The other game I've been playing is Subnautica. And I've had Subnautica, I've owned it for a few years now on multiple platforms. And I tried to play this game with Brandon and our buddy Justin because there's like an unofficial mod that lets you play the game multiplayer. And we were just like, let's play. It was during the time of when I was playing, Sons of the Forest and other survival games. And I was like, let me just hop in and with you guys and check this out. And I love the game, but the problem was that mod kept crashing on us and then deleting our progress, and it was really annoying. And so I just kind of gave up on it. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I just want to play Subnautica. I just want to check it out. So I downloaded it. I probably got 3 to 4 hours in it, and I'm absolutely loving it. I haven't, gotten anywhere substantial. I remember a few of the early game things on where to go to get certain materials and how to make certain things, but I've not really gotten too much further than I did whenever I was playing with some buddies before. But I love, as everybody knows, survival crafting games, so I'm having a blast with it. And the premise is just so much fun. Like you're in water instead of on land, like you are in every other survival crafting game. And just that little bit of a difference and the extra danger it brings and having to get oxygen and all that kind of stuff just make it, more enticing. I got up yesterday super early and traveled all day, saw the eclipse, changed my life, all that kind of stuff. Drove back home. I was gone many hours. I was very tired last night. I was like, but I got to play Subnautica. I got to at least boot it up. And I booted it up and I woke up and I was back in like the pod that I had because I had died because I fell asleep while I was trying to get somewhere. So I will not try that one again, but I will not try doing that again when I'm that tired. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. And it's not a game I want to like devote my main gaming time to right now, but it was that feeling of, well, I don't have time to play Rebirth before I want to go to bed, but I want to play something, and Subnautica is that game.
I got to a point in Subnautica where I just didn't know where to go. And
Yeah,
I know I've read that Subnautica is the kind of game where it doesn't really hold your hand the way that some other survival games go, and you literally just have to poke around. I guess every single world is procedurally generated, so you can't really look up a guide.
Oh, is that true?
I might be wrong there. I feel like it's, so where my super secret cave is in my game would be different from yours. So
Okay.
I think that the crashed ship is the same for everybody, but
Yeah.
I might be mistaken. But
I don't know.
in any case, I think I'm about 6 hours in, and I just kind of got to a point where I think about it and want to go back to it, but I'm just like, I don't know where to go. I just don't.
Right. Right. And then it's so big that it's hard
Yeah,
to
and
figure
it's
that
an
out.
ocean,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was procedurally generated, and that's interesting. But the problem for me is I'm like, wow, I have so much stuff, and I don't know what to do with it, and I can't get rid of it because then I won't have it if I need it, and I can't build enough of these boxes to put it in, and I'm not at the point yet where I've unlocked the ability to make like a cabinet. So that's always the inventory management is always the frustrating part for these types of games for me, but I still like it. I'm still having fun.
Sorry, I was wrong. The map is static.
The map is static. Okay.
Oh, I thought I had that wrong.
I didn't play it enough my first time around to know this time if it was the same map or not. But so Dave, you could just, if you want to get back to it, just Google it.
Look up a guide. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm never a fan of starting out with a guide, but I don't have any problem looking up something if I'm stuck. I'm a pro gamer, okay? I don't have time to be hitting my head against walls here. Ed says the VR challenges are easily the hardest things I've ever played in a video game. He's talking about Rebirth. That's insane. That might make me not want to platinum it because once it gets, I mean, I'll try them and I'll play them, but once it gets to the point where I'm just beating my head against the wall and frustrated, I've got other games to play. If I've experienced the whole story and everything meaningful, side content, whatever, if it's just battles I'm having to literally have a second job over, then I'm not interested. It's just
That's okay. We won't hold it against you, Ben, this time.
I didn't make a resolution. I've got to get the Mass Effect, okay? I didn't make I'll platinum this amount of games resolution this year, so
He's not here, so I'm going to admit it. I'm getting worried about Brandon's Red Dead Redemption playthrough. I got to say. Because that's a big game. That's a chonker, as Ed would say it.
And I don't want him to rush through it, you know? It's such I mean, he's played it before, but I don't think he finished it. It's such a special game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex says, as someone who has beaten Sekiro multiple times, the challenges are harder. I dropped the platinum run too. Interesting. Ed says, there are 4 separate points I said, this is the hardest thing I've ever played. So, Dave, to answer I want to go back to your earlier question, will I be platinuming it? No, probably not. But I'm still going to check it out. Check out those challenges. So
good. I look forward to hearing about them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all we have for the news and for the show this week. Of course, don't forget you can support us over on patreon.com/handsomephantom. You can do that so that we can give Brandon a couple dollars to help fix his computer so he doesn't go the way of the Phil and the Dodo Bird. Also, you can hang out with us on Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. We appreciate seeing you guys there. We'll take a few minutes to figure out the show title and head out. But as for the audio version, that is it. We appreciate anybody who listens, no matter how often, where you are, whether you're a patron or not. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time. I just realized I don't think we need to come up with a show title because I'm pretty sure it's going to be Unforeskin Circumstances. Because you definitely said that.
Oh, man. Is the thumbnail going to be a foreskin?
The thumbnail gets made before the shows now.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's an iPhone with Pokemon running on it.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, if I had known that phrase would be uttered, I still would not have made it a foreskin. I would not.
Did you see the Outlaws trailer?
No, I didn't.
I saw a snippet of it without audio, and it was a story trailer. But Brandon's gesture says he was on foreskin.
Just needs to, for those who don't get to see the live chat, this will just go up there for a second. Now it goes away. Oh, sorry. So I missed what you were saying because I was reading that message. What did you say about
I
Outlast?
saw snippets of it with no audio. It was just a story trailer, so I want to see more gameplay. But
Okay.
people seem to be more up in arms about the typical Ubisoft different versions you can buy. So
Oh,
there's three
yeah.
different versions.
How do
I,
people not just expect that now?
yeah, the one version is $170. I wish it came with a statue or something, but
Yeah.
it's all digital stuff.
Mm. Dave, I forgot to mention this on the show, but this is the extra little bonus for the people who are still around, and for you, really. I pre-ordered Sea of Thieves for PS5. I will almost definitely never play it there, except for initially. Like, I don't play with a controller. I want to play with mouse and keyboard. But I pre-ordered it because I love the game and I'm an idiot. And I looked at this is really what kicked it over the edge for me. I looked at the trophy list and I have the commendations needed for every one of the trophies, and their FAQ claims that they will auto pop. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get the PS5 Sea of Thieves Platinum because I
So
can.
it's cross progression.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
It's kind of like with Minecraft or Fortnite or something. You'll use a Microsoft account to log in
I see.
to get your
Interesting.
pirate. Yeah,
Cool. When does it
yeah.
come out?
End of the month. I think the closed beta is this weekend, but
And
the
it's
game
cross
actually
play
launches.
as well.
It is cross-play. There is the option to turn off cross-play. Like
Right.
you can play on PlayStation only servers, or you can
Okay.
play with everybody.
Yeah,
Xbox have that option too.
I was watching you stream it a couple of weeks ago, and I was just thinking it's gonna be like Christmas Day on COD for
Yeah,
you and your toxic, griefy fucking crewmates there.
dude, what?
Oh, you guys are gonna love it, aren't you?
A lot of people. Well, I've kind of decided we're going to give people a grace period.
But
I'm not gonna.
so your PlayStation, why don't you have a Smurf account on PlayStation?
I mean, I could make one
Yeah, you
and
should.
just sign in with a different Microsoft account.
Yeah,
But I don't want to play on a controller.
fair enough. You
That's
can
the thing.
plug in a mouse and keyboard to your PlayStation 5.
That just seems like a lot of work, man.
Yeah, one USB port.
Yeah. Is there only one USB port, really?
No, I mean
No,
you just plug it in.
Oh, yeah.
Mouse and keyboard it.
Well, yeah, but my PlayStation is like at my entertainment center, and I have a recliner there. Like I'd have to bring it in, haul it into my desk, hook up my mouse and keyboard.
Fair enough. I understand. Ed said Target is getting a steelbook as odd. He's referring to Star Wars Outlaws. Funny thing about steelbooks, I don't know if this is a thing, but our friend Duncan, he's big on MLB The Show.
Yeah.
And he bought it digital or physically this year, or at least he thought he was, because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is on the cover. He's our Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
But he accidentally got the digital steelbook edition.
Oh no.
So it came in a steelbook that didn't have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on the cover. It had a different cover art, and inside the steelbook was not a disc. It was a digital code.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a thing where the
is.
steelbook doesn't have anything in it, because I haven't done digital or physical in a long time. But I thought that was pretty scummy.
Pretty much all of the collector's editions that come with steelbooks now, you don't actually get the base game. You don't actually get the game. I mean, you get a digital code, so that is a game for most people. But it is interesting to me. Like, I don't have any problem with people wanting to do digital over physical. Whatever, do what you want. But I don't understand people who want a steelbook with nothing to put inside of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you want the statue, if you want the pre-order bonuses, that's fine. But why do you want a steelbook with nothing inside of it? Why? But hey, people like to hang things up, display things, put them on the shelf, whatever. So I'm not going to judge there, but I'm just like, it just seems with the God of War Ragnarok, I bought the special edition, and then I also bought the game so I could have it physically, and so I think I just have a code laying around. So yeah, it's probably expired by now or something. Ed pointed out Rebirth had 2 discs and a steelbook, but they didn't come. You got the steelbook, but they didn't have discs in them. You got the actual game too. So it's interesting stuff. All right, Dave, I think we're out of here. Let's get it uploaded and go from there.
Thanks
everybody.
for hanging around.
Yep. Appreciate it. Bye.